Very good. Good morning, everybody. This is the May 23rd a.m. session of the Portland City Council. Carla, please call the roll.
Fish, Saltzman.
Here.
Udaly, Fritz.
Here.
Wheeler.
Here. Good morning. No worries.
Welcome to the Portland City Council. The City Council represents all Portlanders and meets to do the city's business. The presiding officer preserves order and decorum during the City Council meetings so everyone can feel welcome, comfortable, respected, and safe. To participate in council meetings, you may sign up in advance with the council clerk's office for communications to briefly speak about any subject. You may also sign up for public testimony on resolutions or the first reading of ordinances. Your testimony should address the matter being considered at the time. When testifying, please state your name for the record. Your address is not necessary. Please disclose if you are a lobbyist. If you are representing an organization, please identify it. The presiding officer determines the length of testimony. Individuals generally have 3 minutes to testify unless otherwise stated. When you have 30 seconds left, a yellow light goes on. When your time is done, a red light goes on. If you are in the audience and would like to show your support for something that is said, please feel free to do a thumbs up. If you want to express that you do not support something, please feel free to do a thumbs down. Disruptive conduct, such as shouting or interrupting testimony or council deliberations, will not be allowed. If there are disruptions, a warning will be given that further disruption may result in the person being ejected for the remainder of the meeting. After being ejected, a person who fails to leave the meeting is subject to arrest for trespass. Thank you for helping your fellow Portlanders feel welcome, comfortable, respected, and safe.
Very good. Communications, please.
Item 495, request of injured and pissed off to address council regarding civil conspiracy and conflict of interest in seventh service animal attacks.
Good morning.
My name's Injured and Pissed Off, and I wanted to read this because this is what I filled out. You should have copies of this yourselves. A request of Injured and Pissed Off to address council regarding civil conspiracy and conflict of interest in 7 service animal attacks in less than 6 years by the same dog. People talk about landlords, such as slumlords and everything else, that they have trouble with landlords, but currently there's 3 out of 4 laundry facilities in my building are incapacitated. There's only 1 laundry room that's available, that's working. And this was a building that was built in 1999, and candy machine being broken out for the last month, and there's other flooding in the building, sewer problems backing up and stuff. But I'm here to talk about the civil conspiracy and the conflict of interest. There's also another paper that wrote as uninvited guest. I'm the only one in Portland that's ever come to City Hall and talked about issues with their landlords, being that the city owns the property, as documented in these papers, which is also out here by the Post. And you yourself, Mr. Mayor, writing this letter about animal control and what they should have did after 5 dog attacks. That was never anything done. And again, I remind you, I had 7 dog attacks in less than 6 years, and the city did nothing and thinks that they can get away with them being a $200 billion corporation thinking I can't sue them. Well, I'm going to sue them when I get a good attorney that wants to sue a $200 billion corporation, because I got injured with 2 fractures to my spinal cord and a broken hip. There's 500,000 people that's dead now since my hip surgery. There's only an 80% chance of living. There's 353,000 hip surgeries a year, with only 70,600 of them dying each year from complications. What's 500,000 people? Or anything. Of course, those people don't get any justice either, so what am I complaining about? Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Next individual, please.
492, request of Michael O'Connor to address council regarding last Thursday on Alberta. Sorry about that.
Good morning.
Morning. Should I wait for her to hand out?
You can go ahead and start.
Okay. My name is Michael O'Connor. I am here to represent my own views. In the packet you're receiving, it's just got a formal letter addressed to Portland City Council. My communication is about last Thursday on Alberta Street. It's something I've been involved in since 2010. And just to speak about last Thursday a little bit, it's what I consider to be a social phenomenon. It's something, a gathering that naturally emerged, word of mouth, and the city has been shutting down the street for public safety reasons since 2010. And Sam Adams and Commissioner Fritz made a call to action to create Friends of Last Thursday to build a solution for an organization to manage the event. I went through an experience to where in 2015, trying to work with former Mayor Charlie Hales, we weren't unable to reach an agreement. I had acquired 50 endorsements from the local businesses inside the street closure for a planning system and offered to acquire $50,000 to cover some of the public safety expenses. And Charlie Hales declined to reach an agreement. And Mayor, you won the primaries, and we met at the J&M Cafe shortly after, sort of talked about this issue. I had discovered that the city's registration requirements were not legal when they started them in 2015. And I tried to address that with Nathan Howard last year, where he organized a meeting with the city officials involved. And I basically found out that everyone had the legal right to abstain from registering, though the city communicated that not only was it required, police officers said they'd be subject to a $250 fine, and then later in 2016, eviction. And I left a copy of what law I think was violated, ORS 163-275, Section H, which is coercion by a public servant. I came back again this year to go to your offices. I spoke with Matt Grum, Commissioner O'Daly's chief of staff, Commissioner Fish, Jamie Dunphy, and they seemed open to the idea again of having another organization cover these expenses. So I'm back, but the one thing that I would like to accomplish is that if registration is legally voluntary, that the city say so. So Commissioner Saltzman, I would love to ask you the question, is registration voluntary?
We're here to listen.
Great, and I don't have an answer for you because I don't know enough about the issue at all, but I appreciate your bringing this to my attention, and I'll certainly look into it.
Okay, and
Thank
I
you.
will follow up you.
Yeah, thank you for coming in and sharing it.
Sure.
Appreciate it. Thank you. Next individual, please.
Item 493, request of Sarah Hobbs to address council regarding purpose of assault weapons ban.
Good morning.
I have to say this is about with the artist's testimony I will ever give here at City Hall. For the record, my name is Sarah Hobbs. I woke up Valentine's Day to a text message from my mom letting me know my nephew Matthew, who's a student at Stoneman Douglas High School, was on campus when the shootings happened. That was okay. Being over 3,000 miles away, I felt very helpless to know how to help, but then realized I could work to make sure our youth here in Portland are kept safe. Mayor, you told me your hands are tied when it comes to banning assault weapons on the city level due to state ordinance, but even so, something needs to be done. I do not want anyone to go through what my family has. In closing, I ask that we not forget that this past Monday was the 20th anniversary of the shootings at Thurston High School, and that we not forget the 4th anniversary of the shootings at Reynolds High is fast approaching. I fear those who forget history will be doomed to repeat it with more tragic, heartbreaking results. And I want to add, right before I left to come here to City Hall, and I encourage everybody to go to npr.org. There is a piece they wrote about the 20th anniversaries of the shooting at Thurston, and they interviewed a woman who was a student there 20 years ago who recently suffered flashbacks going to the school cafeteria with one of her children who is now themselves a student at Thurston. We've got a group of beautiful high school young women here today. I want to know that the young women, men and women coming to school behind them are going to be safe. I don't want my family to deal with what we're dealing with as a result. And people can say, oh, it hasn't happened here in Portland. Thurston happened 11 months before Columbine, but and let's not forget Reynolds. Thank you.
Thank you, Sarah. Well said. Appreciate it. Next individual, please.
Item 494, request of Stan Herman to address council regarding redevelopment of 1300 North River Street.
Good morning.
My name's Stan Herman, and I'm going to talk a minute and ask you to respond. Let me start with the reason I come to see you.
Stand one sec. I don't think the mic's on.
In the past, I've talked to over 20 city employees, and most of them from all the bureaus. They will not answer my questions, or they don't have an answer, or they simply tell me it's not my job. I'm coming to their boss, Mr. Mayor. I'm calling this my Measure 18. For 18 months now, I've been coming to this council meeting to find the best way to learn your process and arrange a meeting and iron out some issues. I've been respectful of your position, polite as to not make a big scene like I've seen happen in these chambers before. Let me play the role of Lars Larson. For the record, Measure 18 question will be asked to Commissioner Udaley, Fritz, Saltzman, Fish, or Mr. Mayor in any future election campaigns. Mr. Mayor, on 3/20/2018, I was on your website. It asked if I would like to have a meeting with you, and I responded yes. Why no meeting? After trying through personal appearances, emails, notes dropped off in all your offices, my question to you all is, over these past 18 months, since November 2016, I believe, why have you not responded to any attempts I made to communicate with you? Please respond.
Well, frankly, that's not how communications work, but you've been in my office and met with my chief of staff on multiple occasions, so I don't know why you're asking me this question.
and I've responded in writing.
It goes no place.
Well, I'm willing to meet because I'm just curious. I don't know what we're talking about. So if you talk to Michelle afterwards, we'll schedule some time.
Thank you.
You've got my attention.
Thank you.
Very good.
And I want to give back to the community on some things, and I think you'll enjoy what we got.
Great.
Thank you.
Look forward to it.
Okay.
Thank you. And does that, no, we have one more, correct? One more individual. Thank you.
Sure. 496, request of Eileen Kennedy to address council regarding citizens' privacy issues, contact information, and transparency.
Good morning.
Members of council, I come before you today to request that greater privacy be afforded to Portland citizens and all others when their testimony is published on the internet. The city should publish and then adhere to an internet privacy policy that would safeguard citizens. Why privacy? Having one's personal information on the internet creates an unsafe environment for the individual because of the web's global reach. Number one, many Portland citizens hesitate to submit testimony because they are required to furnish personal information. Many of them have been crime victims, as I have been. Number two, Oregon Attorney General Ellen Rosenblum, speaking at a recent AARP convention, strongly encouraged older adults to not only keep their personal data off the internet, but also not to give it out over the phone. That because of the high number of fraud cases victimizing older Oregonians. Three, the city of Portland likes the convenience of the internet, but the internet is not a small town, and the information is not being shared in the context of a small town. Rather, the internet is a modern global community. The city is failing in its responsibility to protect citizens from those who harvest personal data off the internet to push causes not supported by those citizens. Four, the practice of other governmental bodies should be instructive here, like those who don't publish anything more than a citizen's name and, if applicable, the name of the group the citizen is affiliated with. For example, the Bureau of Ocean Energy Management has found a way to balance the values of transparency while at the same time protecting privacy of citizens from those who would use personal information to advance their pet causes. On the last 2 pages of my packet, you will see my testimony to Ryan Zinke at the Department of Interior, commenting on the proposed building of oil rigs in our coastal waters. I had joined Washington State Governor Jay Inslee in this effort. The formatting is what I'm pleased to propose. So on the second to the last page, you see my testimony, and there isn't anything else with it other than my name. And then they wrote me an email and said, we're going to publish your name and your testimony, but we will not publish this information. They did ask for it, but they did not publish it. And I called them and talked to them on the phone and asked them why did they do that, because they're a government agency like yourself. And they told me it was important to them that citizens were kept safe. I also do not like it when personal information is put on the Google search page by the city of Portland. I think that's far too public.
All right, thank you. Appreciate your testimony. Carla, have any items been pulled from the consent agenda?
Yes, all of them 502 through 505.
All right, call the roll on the consent agenda.
There's nothing left on consent.
Oh, isn't 501 still, did you say 501? Oh, sorry, that's the time certain. So the entire consent agenda has
Yes.
been pulled.
Correct.
Very good. We'll go to the first time certain item, 497.
497, 2018 Rose Festival and Rose Festival Court.
Commissioner Fish.
Thank you, Mayor. I'd like to invite three distinguished guests to come forward and join us. They are Jeff Curtis, the CEO of the Portland Rose Festival Foundation, Brett Baker, President of the Portland Rose Festival Foundation, and Terry Bowles-Atherton, the President-elect. And congratulations. I'd like to welcome Jeff, Brett, and Terry and the 2018 Rose Festival Court to City Hall. Mayor Wheeler assigned me as council liaison to the Rose Festival, and I have to admit, it's been a lot of fun. The Rose Festival, of course, is the city's official festival. It brings together families, friends, and tourists to the heart of Portland each year. The Rose Festival is an important part of our city's identity, with its many traditions, wonderful parades, concerts, and other events. Today, we're proud to celebrate and highlight the 2018 Rose Court. They are some of our brightest emerging leaders. Perhaps one day, one of them will be seated up here, preferably in one of these four chairs. Jeff, it's an honor to work with you and the Rose Festival Board, and we look forward to continuing to strengthen our partnership in the years ahead. We appreciate all of your tireless work, and I'll turn it over to you.
Thank you, Commissioner Fish, Mayor Wheeler, distinguished colleagues on the council, and Jeff Curtis, CEO of the Portland Rose Festival Foundation. And I think it's appropriate as we, just 48 hours from the production of this world-class festival known as your official festival, the Rose Festival, that you're honoring the Vanport Mosaic Festival today. I think that as the grandfather of the events industry, that the grassroots efforts to start a community celebration in honor of the 70th anniversary of that historic flood in Vanport is very appropriate, and I wanted to just acknowledge that in front of you. In fact, there's a Rose Festival connection to that, that community and that horrific experience in our community, and that was when that flood happened. That Vanport had a float in the Grand Flow Parade, had for years, and it washed away. And Portland firefighters at that time rallied together to rebuild a float. I think about how close it was to Grand Flow Parade, and put their court on, and that parade continued to go down the street and honor the citizens of Vanport, even though they just had that event take place just a few weeks earlier. I think that shows our true spirit of events, and I, again, proud and congratulate you for honoring the community of Vanport today. With that said, I want to go in. What we're going to do this morning is talk a little about our organization, and most importantly, give you a preview using our Rose Festival Court. And when I do that, I want to acknowledge our theme, Play Happy. This theme was born just under a year ago. And if you recall, last spring, Portland was not in the best happy mood when you had the context of the protests and things of that nature. And of course, the horrific events that took place on our Max line is right around Rose Festival season. And while those things were very tragic and unfortunate and part of our community, I think it sent a rallying cry for all of us that we can be better, and we can rally, and we can ultimately unite people. And that's what the Rose Festival's purpose is. And at the end of the day, the theme Play Happy really kind of symbolizes that. Portland's a playground for the next 3 weeks. Let's all come together and celebrate under this common theme of what this place we call home. So that's what we're going to talk about in the context of our festival this year. And with that said, I'm going to lead off and transition to our board president, Mr. Brett Baker.
Thanks, Jeff. Good morning, Mayor Wheeler and city commissioners. My name is Brett Baker. I have the honor of serving on the board of directors of the Portland Rose Festival Foundation and the privilege of being its current president. First of all, let me reemphasize publicly how much we appreciate the support of the council and the bureaus that all engage in some way to make sure that the Portland Rose Festival has the resources it needs. We appreciate all the city employees who play some part in ensuring we have a successful and safe Portland Rose Festival. But I wanted to take a moment to share a side of the Portland Rose Festival that does not get enough accolades. While it's easy for me to say a few words or have the fun of riding in a parade or participate in as many events, I represent the heart and soul of the Rose Festival, its volunteer core. Collectively, the Portland Rose Festival is guided and produced by a small full-time staff and a team of dedicated directors totaling currently 53 individuals. Our directors are a diverse group of highly motivated and dedicated volunteers. Our directors each serve on a year-round planning on committees that go largely unnoticed behind the scenes of Rose Festival events, ensuring our programming, business, and charitable goals are met. They also are year-round stewards of overall philanthropic mission of the Portland Rose Festival itself. Beyond that core are thousands of volunteers that many give 1 hour, in some cases hundreds of hours, simply because they love Portland and the Rose Festival. We're very proud to have the honor of being the city's official festival, something earned over a century of being an independent nonprofit that features the city and its people. Portland itself is also the main beneficiary of the Rose Festival. According to our last independent study, the Rose Festival earned a collective economic impact of over $60 million annually. A full year's work of planning and preparation is nearly complete as we get ready to get the celebration underway this Friday evening with Mayor Wheeler's official opening of the festival that triggers our opening night fireworks. I want to remind all of Portland, this is your city, your festival, and the stage is now set to play Happy Together. Jeff, I'll turn it back to you.
Thank you, Brett. Appreciate that. We're going to have the court give a preview of this, what the community can expect, but I want to share a couple kind of highlights that what we'll experience this year. First of all, the Spirit Mountain Casino Grand Float Parade. It's on a stage on a world-class parade perspective. It's on the likes of the Tournament of Roses in Pasadena, to Macy's, to the Mardi Gras in Europe. And what makes it special is the unique aspects of the floats, the artistic nature of them, the floral aspects, and the creative culture that comes along. And this is just a couple of floats that the public will see march down the streets on the Grand Float Parade. This is an otter that looks like it's suspended in water that ultimately is on a 40-foot chassis float going down the streets. Again, all decorated in aspects of floral design. And this is another example. You can see riding this dragon is the Blazers mascot, Blaze, which will be another highlight of the Grand Floral Parade. Just two of upwards of 25 floral floats that will make its way down the streets on the morning of June the 9th, which is our signature event of the entire celebration.
Jeff, tell people what the rules are for what their float has to be covered with.
It has to be covered with anything organic, basically anything that's grown from the ground. It could seeds, watermelon rinds, of course the flower content, coffee beans, you name it. There's hundreds of different aspects that these are decorated with. And they are on display. If you don't see the parade, if you see it on TV, you can come down to Nato Parkway and actually see them up close following the Grand Float Parade on Saturday and Sunday. This is a small float that is really our Rose Festival owned float that we changed a bit this year. And I think it's important to mention is that it showcases the floral content for this float will be funded through the contributions of citizens in honor of 6 individuals that have made tremendous impacts to the Rose Festival. The Rose Festival has lost in the last year to 2. 6 individuals that have been instrumental to our success and our history. We're honoring themselves, their legacy, and their family through floral content of this, what we call our legacy float. That's the Grand Float Parade. Now, we go down to the waterfront, you'll see a mix of entertainment, mainly with concerts, to carnival rides, to great food. This photo depicts our Rose Zone concert series, which has the likes of lots of national acts, but also local acts. But I want to highlight just that what's different this year is the artistic side of our programming. We've dedicated just under half of our funding on the entertainment side to more more visual and performing arts, not just bands playing music. And this is an example of a local group called the Aerial Circus Arts Group. And you will see this under a large tent out at City Fair. An evolution of our thinking to make this it's an urban artistic fair with great food and carnival rides and great music as well. So this is a new addition the public will see down at City Fair over the next 3 weeks, the performers of these type down there at the waterfront. Got to talk about our junior parade because of this piece. This is the 100th anniversary of the junior parade. And there's a story behind this. And the story is, I wish I had a photo that goes back to actually 1918, but we'll give you some historic photos just to give you perspective. But specifically, in 1918, the Portland Rose Festival was canceled. City council, city leaders decided it wasn't in the best interest of Portland to have a big festival that year because of World War I. But the kids in our community back then, I think it's very appropriate that the court's with us today. We were just talking about how youth movements today are starting to make a difference, and that's important. The kids back in 1918 said, well, if there's no Rose Festival, we'll do something ourselves. So they made their own parade. Up in Northeast 44th Avenue. They elected their own queen, Barbara Cable, and had the first Junior Rose Festival queen. And there was a parade going down the street in 1918, 100 years ago, organized by kids. Again, I think that shares the spirit of Portland that still exists today, and we're honoring that as the 100th anniversary of the Junior Parade this year.
Jeff, for how many years has Commissioner Saltzman attended that parade? You said it was a 100-year tradition. My recollection is he's been pretty faithful in attending that for his entire service. Am I right?
He can speak for himself, but I will say that he is absolutely, if you ask him, if not, it's one of his favorite events. And I think it's appropriate, especially with his work on the Children's Levy and the things of that nature, Children's Investment Fund, that he's part of that event. And this will be his last year riding as an elected official. So we're happy to have him on. Thank you, Dan.
My favorite event, yes.
So that's the story of the Junior Parade, I think, that is important to tell. It talks about, and we'll celebrate that this year as well. A couple of just neat photos from the back in the 30s. Fast forward in 2018, and actually 2017, this photo was taken. Our Portland Thorns Football Club won the championship, and they have been named Grand Marshal of our Starlight Parade. So we're excited to have them. There's a big group of them going to be down the street, so we can celebrate again these world-class athletes representing Portland. So that's a highlight of our Starlight Parade this year.
Jeff, you've arranged this year at the Starlight Parade to have the city's car trail the Thorns at my request. I just learned that I may not be able to represent the city, so I'm hoping there is someone.
I already stepped up.
I'm hoping that Commissioner Fritz, who is our #1 Thorns fan, would be willing to do that, so thank you.
Yep. Plans happen and vote fast, and she's on it, and we're already making those arrangements. So we're going to let the court talk about the entire festival in great concept and detail, but I thought, again, looking at the volunteer side, I wanted to have our president-elect speak. As we're transitioning, Brett's in office for just till October, but we're introducing Terry to a lot of the key roles that she'll carry on, and I thought this was the perfect entree to her, for you to meet her and speak about herself and her role within the Rose Festival, and to introduce you to Terry Bowles-Atherton.
Thank you, Jeff. Good morning, and again, thank you, Mayor Wheeler and the entire council for having us this morning. Again, my name is Terry Bowles-Atherton, and I'd like to tell you a little bit about myself and how I became involved with the Portland Rose Festival Foundation, and in particular, why I'm passionate about the Rose Festival. As with many Portland natives, I became fascinated with the wonderment of the Rose Festival at a very young age. I was actually told I attended my first Rose Festival wrapped in my mom's arms in a blanket when I was about 6 months old. And later on, I had 2 cousins who attended Jefferson High School, become Rose Festival princesses in the 70s. And as a little girl, I was just in awe of that and all of that they represented in the rest of the Rose Festival court. I also landed my first ever volunteer job with that same uncle and family, along with neighborhood volunteers, applying flowers and greenery on the floats that he sponsored annually, at that time representing that African American community. I still remember how important and proud I felt being in those warehouses, sometimes really late into the night, applying the last final touches to the floats. And so as you can see, early on, I have a love of the Rose Festival, and that flows through my blood. The Rose Festival has also given me the opportunity to connect my passions of giving back to the community and also working with young women. When I returned to Portland after graduating from college, I worked at the American Red Cross, and ironically, it was there where, similar to today's visit, where I met a most impressive group of young women. They had come there as ambassadors to welcome and thank blood donors who were present that day. And after a brief conversation with one of the chaperones, she commented to me that the Rose Festival always welcomes volunteers to help shepherd the young ladies, 13 young ladies at the time, from event to event. So having a passion for working with young women, I again was kind of bitten by the volunteer bug and decided to continue volunteering with the Rose Festival. So as you probably can guess, after one volunteer job after another, I was soon invited to the board in 2009. And today I'm here as the incoming president-elect of the Portland Rose Festival Foundation and want to emphasize the importance of the festival to our entire city. Not only is the Rose Festival our opportunity to showcase our wonderful city across the country and throughout the world, it's also our opportunity to bring about our communities together in unity and mutual pride. It's also a time to celebrate our various cultures. It's a time to celebrate the amazingly beautiful floral heritage of our city. It's a time to showcase Portland's biggest annual party. It's also a time to bring out the inner kid in each of us, and it's simply a time to play happy together. And I honestly couldn't be more proud to be part of an organization that allows me to help host the city's biggest party. The Portland Rose Festival is, in fact, the center jewel of our city's crown. And to highlight the events of the Portland's official festival, I'd like to welcome 14, or actually 12 of the 14, 2 are taking AP tests this morning, to highlight the events that are coming over the next 3 weekends. Thank you.
Thank you, and welcome.
Hello, we are the 2018 Rose Festival Court presented by Unitas Community Credit Union. We'd like to introduce ourselves and tell you what's happening during this year's Rose Festival. Luce.
I'm Luce from Lincoln High School. My favorite Rose Festival event is the Starlight Parade because I love seeing the fun light displays each group will have and all the families lined up to watch them. To me, there is no more of a perfect theme for the Rose Festival than Play Happy, because that's what it's always been for me. Come play happy at the Rose Festival this year. Bring your family to downtown Portland for the PGE Solve Starlight Parade, Saturday, June 2nd at 8:30 p.m. to see the illuminated floats, marching bands, dancing groups, and special entries that light up the sky at this nighttime event. Or watch it live on KPTV Fox Channel 12.
Kashimani.
Hi, I'm Kashimani from Jefferson High School, where I am president of our National Honor Society, co-president of our Women's Empowerment, and a member of Self-Enhancement Inc. Now that I'm a part of the court, I can give the young girls in my community a positive role model to look up to. Come join me and my fellow princesses to see who will be crowned this year's Queen of Rose Area. The Queen's Coronation, presented by Unitas Community Credit Union, will be held Saturday, June 9th at 8:30 a.m. at the Veterans Memorial Coliseum, right before the Grand Floral Parade. We appreciate all the support.
Melissa.
Hi, I'm Melissa from Grant High School. In middle school, I was part of the Beaumont cheerleading team, which took part in the junior parade every year. It was always an indication that summer was just around the corner. Come show your support for local youth by joining us for the Fred Meyer Junior Parade on Wednesday, June 6th at 1 p.m. in the Hollywood District. This year, we will be celebrating the centennial of the Junior Parade's inception, where the children of Portland took to the streets to make their own Rose Festival processions. Watch it in live or catch the telecast on KPTV Fox Channel 12.
Jenny.
I'm Jenny from St. Mary's Academy. As a Laurelhurst Elementary and Middle School graduate, I'll always cherish my memories of the school's Rose competition leading the Rose Festival Court, and singing What a Wonderful World with all my fellow students. I still have my ribbon from the year my Rose won the Miniature Rose category. Do you want to find your own rosy memento from the Portland Rose Festival and the City of Roses? Come visit the Rose Garden store, located at Portland's famous International Rose Test Garden in Washington Park. Proceeds from the store help support Portland's public rose gardens.
Allie.
I'm Allie from David Douglas High School. Rose Festival Fleet Week is my favorite event because, aside from the significance of appreciation, it exhibits the progress our nation has come to as a united and diverse country. Rose Festival and Fleet Week gives Portlanders an inspiration for everyday life to stand together and grow as one community. Bring your family to see the ships lined up on the Waterfront Park seawall during Fleet Week, June 6th through June 10th. The Rose Festival is excited to welcome ships back to Portland from the United States Navy, U.S. Coast Guard, and Royal Canadian Navy. While they're here, you can climb aboard for a free ship tour for a complete Fleet Week experience.
Madison.
I'm Madison from Roosevelt High School. When I was younger, my parents would tell my brother and me to have a happy heart and a good attitude, both at work and during play. I participate in my local Rugby Oregon club team each spring, and I also run in various 5Ks throughout the Portland area. This year, Cambia is empowering hardworking women by bringing out the best female golf pros in the world. The Cambia Portland Classic will be held at the Columbia Edgewater Golf Course on Labor Day weekend, Thursday, August 30th through Sunday, September 2nd.
Stephanie.
I'm Stephanie from Madison High School. My biggest hobby is music. I often spend my spare time strumming my ukulele and singing any song I can think of. My love and appreciation for music and the arts has only grown from the 6 years that I've spent in my school bands and choirs. If you're a music lover like me, make your way down for a variety of concerts taking place this season in the Rose Zone. Check out the Disciple Records Takeover, the Brew Presenting Tribute Fest, and the Bulls Country Fest featuring Eli Young Band. Come join in the musical fun down at Waterfront Park.
Anna.
I'm Anna from Wilson High School, and my favorite Rose Festival event has to be the Grand Floral Parade. Seeing the diversity in faces among the crowd, the beautiful and meticulous details of the floats, and the overall excitement and enjoyment of everyone keeps me smiling the whole time. Come see the joyful performance from around the world at the spectacular Spirit Mountain Casino Grand Floral Parade on Saturday, June 9th at 10 a.m. Watch for the amazing horses, dancing groups, marching bands, and all floral floats. See it for yourself from the streets, and reserve seats at the Veterans Memorial Coliseum or live on KPTV Fox Channel 12.
Sydney.
I'm Sydney from Cleveland High School. My favorite Rose Festival event is the Dragon Boat Race because I get to watch my mom race every year. Plus, there are tons of people, and I love the atmosphere there. Everybody's happy to be there. Come see the Dragon Boat Race held on the Willamette River near the Hawthorne Bridge on June 9th and June 10th. The dragon boats won't be the only ones on the water this year. Come cheer on the kids and their families on Sunday, June 24th at the classic Rose Festival event, the Milk Carton Boat Race.
Mariamu.
Hi, my name is Mariamu from Benson High School. Playing happy is a lifestyle that makes me happy to be with. My hobbies include modeling, dancing, community service, and learning about my culture and others. This year, I would love to blend my unique culture within the Rose Festival, expressing yourself and what makes you play happy by marching or dancing your way down to the Grand Floral Parade. Route at the parade, bank of the West Grand Floral Walk on Saturday, June 9th at 9:30 a.m. Wear a funky costume or a branded t-shirt as you walk past hundreds of thousands of spectators cheering you on.
Maya.
I'm Maya from Westview High School representing the Metro West region. My favorite place in Portland is Mount Tabor. I love walking to the top and looking west to downtown. It's breathtaking. The trails specifically around the water reservoir and the open green spaces make it a place I frequent when the weather dries up in the spring and the summer. Portland's natural spaces need protection, but so do the urban spaces. Show your support for our shared environment by helping keep the city streets of Portland clean and green. The Portland Rose Festival has been named the cleanest and greenest festival, working hard to keep the post-parade streets spotless for over 20 years. Kiara. I'm Kiara from Park Rose High School. I love Portland for its artistic events such as the Saturday Market downtown and last Thursday on Alberta Street. The lively vibes of artists and bands performing on sidewalks with booths lining up and down the streets is something to look forward to every weekend from March until December. Join us this year as we celebrate the 10th anniversary of Rose Festival Clowns. This program has drawn close to 140 participants. These ordinary folks turned extraordinary entertainers reflect both the contemporary culture of the region and the traditional art of clowning.
The clowns are led by one of the region's most talented and professional clowns, Angel Acasio, also crowned the Rose Festival Clown Prince.
Thank you for hosting the 2018 Rose Festival Court presented by Unitas Community Credit Union. We'll see you at the Rose Festival.
Yes, and there's an opportunity here briefly for comments, if anybody'd like comments. And then we'd love to have a photo with the entire court right down here in front of the rostrum. Colleagues?
I just have to say this presentation is one of my favorite things of the entire year. So thank you very much. Good job. You did a fantastic presentation, and I look forward to seeing more of you on the parades and at the walk.
Thank you.
So I enjoyed a breakfast with these young ladies this morning, and I was told that they were going to ask me some questions. And I was expecting a very easy set of questions because it was breakfast and we were all hungry and it's early. And the very first question they asked me, and Commissioner Udaley, you will appreciate this, the very first question was, tell us about your affordable housing strategy, and can you tell us about your anti-gentrification plans for North and Northeast Portland? Please be specific. So I have great confidence in this generation of young leaders, and these are all wonderful and delightful and intelligent young leaders, and we're honored by your presence. So thank you for being here today.
Thank you.
Very good. We'll just, we'll move these in.
I would just like to say on behalf of the 2018 Rose Festival Court, I would like to present each council member with our official poster with our photos and our signatures, as well as the official and very exclusive Play Happy pin this year that we can give to our family when we are selected as princesses. And I would like to give each member of the City Council the pen and the poster to say that you are now a member of our family.
Oh, that's really nice. Thank you.
Jeff, does that get us into all the events free?
Yes,
No, can't do. Okay, good. Just
so cool. Thank you very much. Oop. Thank you.
Yeah, my daughter went to Wilson.
Congratulations. Thank you very much. Thank you. Okay. Come around here.
Guys, thanks. You want to come on down and participate?
Where would you like? Why don't you get as close to the mayor as possible? You and I'll take the wings.
Nick doesn't understand.
I can't see. Girls. Come in the middle. There we go. Perfect. Okay, and then the ladies up front.
Betsy is very good at start marching.
Do a squat. Like a little, yeah, perfect. All right, everyone. Oh, we'll have you scoot in a little bit. A little clap for the family. All right, 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. This camera now. Sorry, one more.
Michelle, you were late.
I know, I'm sorry. 1, 2, 3. But fortunately, everyone smiled, had their eyes open.
It would be hard. You might also like choose to get her.
Oh, of course. Ladies, thank you.
This is pretty close. This is the second.
These people from the Celilo community, they are elders.
Okay. Good. Thanks. Thank you.
Hey, Ted?
Yeah.
So what I have is talking points, invitation, proclamation, and photo. You've got the proclamation, I think?
All right, next item, item number 498, please.
Proclaim May 30, 2018 to be Vanport Day of Remembrance.
Commissioner Fish.
Thank you very much, Mayor. I have some brief introductory remarks. I'd like to invite Laura Loforti from Vanport Mosaic, Jim Burke, a local historian, and Marge Moss White, a former Vanport resident, to take their place at the table, and welcome to our distinguished guests. Mayor and colleagues, we're here today to honor the survivors of Vanport and to remember the rich history of this often forgotten chapter in our past. This is a year of important anniversaries. The 76th anniversary of Vanport's construction in 1942, the 70th anniversary of the Vanport flood on May 30th, Memorial Day, 1948, and of course the 50th anniversary of the Fair Housing Act. Vanport residents came from across the country in search of jobs during World War II. At its peak, it was Oregon's second largest city, with over 40,000 residents. Almost half were African American. I'm honored to serve on a council that commemorates this rich history on a regular basis and that has supported Vanport Mosaic with a special appropriations grant. The third annual Vanport Mosaic Festival begins today and runs through Memorial Day. And we're very pleased to have with us today again Laura Loforti, Jim Burke, and Marge Moss White. Laura, take it away.
Good morning. I was practicing to say all your names, but I decided that it's not going to be a good thing, so I can pronounce them. And also, I just remind myself a lesson, one of the many lessons from the Vanport history, that at the end of the day, we are all the same community. So there's no need to make distinction between you and us and everybody here. So community, good morning. We are so excited to invite you to the third Vanport Mosaic Festival. It opens today, and thank you for the opportunity to be here and invite the city to commemorate the 70th anniversary of the Vanport flood. There are hundreds of people behind the Vanport Mosaic project. It's a memory activism effort to amplify, honor, and preserve this important history and many other silenced histories of our region. So we open today, and for 6 days, we are going to invite you to explore this history with us with tours of the former sites, exhibits, oral history screenings, theater, music, a reunion for former residents. It's our third reunion, and this year we have over 100 guests confirmed. And so it's a growing community, although, of course, it is a shrinking community. People are in their 80s and 90s, and so this is a very urgent call to all of you to gather around their stories and their lessons. One of the events I want to point out to is a forum called Lessons from Vanport and Katrina. And it is an opportunity on May 28th, when we commemorate the 70th anniversary, to really listen to these stories. We're going to have Vanport survivors and survivors from Katrina to share their lessons of survival. And at the end of the day, we can have all the emergency kits that we want, preparing for potential earthquake or flooding. We are at risk of flooding. But what is going to determine our survival is our community. So the Vanport Mosaic is really a platform for belonging and a call to gather face-to-face with communities that you might not be familiar with, and it's a celebration of the city we want to be. So I'm honored to have many former residents and flood survivors here with us, and I invite you all to honor their experience and to listen to their stories. Thank you.
Good morning. My name is Marge Cannon Moss, and I am a Vanport survivor.
Ma'am, if we could just move the mic a little closer to you so we can all hear you. Thank you very much.
Is that better?
That's better.
I am a Vanport survivor. We moved there in 1944 from Las Vegas, and I found Vanport to be a wonderful place to live. There was no discrimination. My teachers were all wonderful. If I have time, I would like to tell you this one story. I was in the 6th grade, and they were encouraging me to play basketball. I had never played basketball before. I did not know the rules. So I'm bouncing the ball around, and of course the other kids, they're doing the same thing, and all of a sudden I fouled a girl. We were taught in Louisiana, where I was born, that you do not touch white people. You do not look at them in their face. You look down. And of course, when I fouled this girl, I was devastated. There was a post close by, and I grabbed the post and I held on to it. I had a wonderful teacher. She tried to coax me away from the pole, but I would not turn the pole loose. And so I'm saying Vanport was well integrated, in my opinion. I never felt any discrimination. It was during World War II, and everything was rationed. And I remember going to the store to buy eggs. You didn't get a carton to put your eggs in. If you were lucky enough to have one, you would hold on to it. And we would have paper bags. So, of course, we would cherish the eggs and hold on to them and take care of them and not drop them. We had our own theater, and we could sit anywhere we wanted in that theater. We had recreation centers, and we could go and we could play with the young girls or boys without feeling discriminated against. And I have to say that Vanport, to me, was home, and it still is. Now, the area where Vanport was is Delta Park. To me, it is not Delta Park. It is still Vanport. If we could incorporate the name of Delta with Vanport, I think that would be a wonderful thing to do. It could be Vanport Delta. And that is my wish and one of my requests. I loved Vanport. I loved the people that were there. And I had a wonderful schooling there. The teachers did not treat me any different than my classmates. One of my best friends, her name was Lila. To me, Lila was the tallest white girl I'd ever seen. And she had the reddest hair. I had never seen such red hair. But Lila and I were very good friends. And I think, have I used up my time? Because I can go on and on.
Marge, thank you very much. And what you've done is you've whet our appetite. And the purpose of the festival is for us to learn more about all the stories. And thank you for sharing a part of your story with us today.
It's my pleasure. I love talking about Vanport. And thanks to this lovely woman here, we've been doing this since 2014.
Thank you.
Very nice. Jim?
Thanks so much.
Good morning. My name is Jim Burke, and it's my honor to be here today as we read the names of those who lost their lives nearly 70 years ago. Sarah Louise Butcher. Michael Carey Butcher. Isla Mae Smith. Thank you. Henry George Smith. Helen Ruth Banks. Lorena Smith. Florence Beadle. Izumi Oyama. Earl Wayne Hopkins, Sr. Effie Mae Dawson. Camilla Wennerland Dolly. Gerda Kaspara Wennerland. Sadao Mizuno. Hiram Michael Skaggs. And Mabel Irene Powers.
Mayor, I believe you have a proclamation and some remarks.
I do, and is Joyce Nelson with us today? Is she going to be speaking?
I don't know, I don't think so.
Very good. And I want to acknowledge that the Native community also holds this day as a very, very special day. Joyce?
I'm Joyce Nelson.
I would like to say a few nice things about you, if you don't mind. Joyce, could you stand up just one more time so people can see you, please? We'd like to recognize you. Joyce is a member of the Assiniboine Sioux tribe from Montana. In 1944, Mrs. Nelson moved to Vanport with her parents and siblings all the way from the Fort Peck Reservation in eastern Montana. Her parents relocated here to take advantage of the jobs that were available in the shipyards. She was 13 years old when Vanport flooded, 4 years after her family moved from their tribal homelands. She vividly recalls seeing her housing unit twirling in the strong floodwaters right behind her family's car as they escaped this tragedy. Mrs. Nelson kept a scrapbook, which she has with her. One of the items that she saved is her emergency report card that was issued to all Vanport children who were unable to return to their school to complete the school year. She graduated from Lincoln High School when it was located in what is now Portland State University. She then went on to receive secretarial training at the Bureau of Indian Affairs Trade School in Lawrence, Kansas, called the Haskell Institute. Today, Joyce, we'd also like to recognize you and to acknowledge the significant Native American presence that thrived in Vanport before its collapse. Many of those families stayed on here in Portland to work and raise families. We'd like to recognize that Vanport was a contributing factor to the tribal diversity that is represented here in our city. And I'd also like to recognize from the Celilo community, Linda Vianis, who's here today. Good morning. As well as Siadam Edmo, who I believe is also here. Very good. Thank you for being here, and we are honored by your presence. So here's a tradition from the Portland City Council. We read these proclamations in moments of honor and recognition and remembrance like this. Whereas 2018 is the 76th anniversary of the construction of Vanport, the 70th anniversary of the Vanport flood, and the 50th anniversary of the Federal Fair Housing Act. And whereas the city of Vanport was once Oregon's second largest city and the nation's largest public housing project with a peak population of over 40,000 individuals. Whereas Vanport was home to World War II shipbuilders, a diverse group of people from all across the country, 25% of whom were African American. And whereas The community had schools, stores, a hospital, a movie theater, and a 2-year college. And whereas Vanport was constructed in the Columbia River floodplain and was protected from the river by a series of levees. Whereas the Columbia River flooded on May 30th, 1948, immediately displacing its residents. And whereas Portlanders today know the site of Vanport as Delta Park, the Portland Expo Center, Heron Lakes Golf Course, and Portland International Raceway. And whereas Vanport Mosaic is a nonprofit community group that honors the history and the legacy of Vanport. And whereas Vanport Mosaic will hold a festival from May 25th through 28th, 2018 to honor and celebrate Vanport as an essential and often forgotten chapter in Portland's history. Now, therefore, I, Ted Wheeler, Mayor of the City of Portland, Oregon, the City of Roses, do hereby proclaim May 30th, 2018 to be Vanport Day of Remembrance in Portland and encourage all residents to observe this day. Thank you. Commissioner Udaley.
Thank you, Mayor. I just wanted to draw everyone's attention to an exhibition of artwork in the South Atrium downstairs by Peggy Ball Morrill, which was coordinated by our tribal liaison, Laura John, in concert with my office. Peggy was a member of the Klamath Modoc tribe and painted about her experiences growing up in Vanport, which she also narrowly escaped as a toddler with her family, and afterwards settled in North Portland. Peggy's art portrays a community that is nearly invisible in popular culture and is often not acknowledged as having a presence in Vanport. The paintings downstairs recall a close-knit Native community at a time when federal termination and relocation policies threatened Native survival and drove families to places like Portland for jobs and education. Peggy Ball Morrill's parents moved from Chiloquin, Oregon to Vanport during World War II. She was raised in North Portland, graduated from Jefferson High School, and began taking art classes at PCC Cascade campus in the 1970s. She studied drawing and painting at the drawing studio with Phil Sylvester, and was also a master star quilt maker. Peggy passed away in August of 2015. And full disclosure, Peggy is also the mother of one of my best friends, and I had the incredible honor of showing her artwork in my gallery in 2015, a few months before she passed away. So that's my personal connection to Vanport, and it's such a treat to get to visit with these paintings again, and I hope that everyone has a chance to view them on your way out today. And thank you for your continued efforts to celebrate Vanport.
Thank you. So we'd like to now invite folks up who would like to have a picture with us right up in front, and we'll get rid of these little ropes here so we can do that.
I want to hear more about your red-headed friend.
Hey, Colin, you want a lot of stories to tell?
Oh, sure, yes. A lot of people.
the camera, then you're not in the photo. Okay?
Somebody, yay.
Ready?
The camera too hard.
1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. Perfect.
You got everything in?
Got everything?
All right. Thank you, everybody. Yes.
I wanted you to sign it.
Where do you want me to sign?
Joyce's husband at the.
Yes, he does. Yes, he's. I'm a huge fan. Can I sign it on the sticker?
Thank you so much.
This is like a collector's item. You know that, right? It's nice to see you. Thank you. All right. Oh, this one should be good.
No, we'll get a new one.
Okay.
Is that the Piper's office up there? Boston Casual?
Oh, I don't know. I was wondering who that crowd was.
Hey, Gary? Hey, Gary.
Speak after back in session, and we now have another important proclamation and recognition today. Carla, could you please read item number 499?
Yes. Proclaim May 23, 2018 to be Jewel Lansing Day.
Madam Auditor, good morning.
Good morning, Mayor and
Morning.
Commissioners.
Morning,
I am City Auditor Mary Hall Caballero, and I am pleased to introduce a proclamation declaring Jewel Lansing Day in Portland. Jewel is being honored today for her contributions as a trailblazer for women in elective office and a pioneer in government accountability. I am joined by former City Auditor Gary Blackmer, who followed a few steps behind Jewel as an elected auditor and a force within the auditing profession. I sit in this place at this time in large part because of their influence, but mostly because Jewel Lansing is a hard woman to say no to when she wants you to run for office. That's because Jewel was among the vanguard of women who successfully ran in the 1970s, paving the way for those of us today for whom such a choice is unremarkable. Jewel pioneered performance auditing in Portland and Multnomah County. She served as Multnomah County Auditor from 1975 through 1982, and Portland City Auditor from 1983 through 1986. She was one of the first 2 women elected to Multnomah County government and was the 5th elected in Portland. Jewel has been an auditor, accountant, author, campaigner, supporter, advisor, mother, grandmother, and wife. She plays in a regular poker game, remains a force in politics as a founding member of a Women's Political Action Committee, and still influences the outcomes of elections as a much sought-after endorser. Jewel's family is here to join the celebration and her contributions to the well-being of Portland, and to christen the newly named Jewel Lansing Conference Room in City Hall. Daughters Annette, Elise, son-in-law Joe, grandson Tyler, and husband Ron are here today. We're also joined by some auditors and former auditors. Former Metro Auditor Suzanne Flynn is here, and Metro Auditor Brian Evans is here, and we have some auditors in the balcony from Multnomah County, and we have many members of the League of Women Voters. So now I'm going to turn it over to Gary Blackmer to share his unique perspective on Jewel, and then Jewel will say a few words before you read the proclamation. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor, members of council. I want to talk a little bit about Jewel's impact on auditing, because it has a long reach, not only within this community, but nationally. She introduced performance auditing in Multnomah County right after she was elected in 1975. And one thing I want to recognize was that she was approached by Don Clark to run for Multnomah County Auditor because he encouraged accountability. He's in the room here, and I'd like to at least have him stand up and yes, he approached accountability as an important element of a healthy organization. And from the standpoint of what Jewel introduced, this was only the second local government audit program in the entire U.S. in 1975. She was beat out by a few months by King County up north of us, but I think we've done better over the years. And that's speaking a little bit of bias. So then she ran for Portland auditor, and one interesting little story was George Yurkovich was the auditor at the time, and she went in to meet with him, and after the meeting she came out and announced that George was retiring and she was running. Well, this came as a little bit of a surprise to George because he hadn't planned on sharing that information with anybody. So anyway, she ran and was elected, and she fought hard to create a performance audit program here in Portland. She had to work hard with council to get 3 votes to actually create the program. She succeeded with that. Then she had a long fight to actually get it funded. This was a place that wasn't quite as welcoming as Don Clark was in Multnomah County to performance auditing. But I think over the years, the city has adapted to the fact that accountability is a healthy thing for this government and its operations, and the openness that it embraces with the public is something that's part and parcel with what the auditor does. Nationally, once she got involved with performance auditing, she encouraged other local government auditors to get together, and out of that came a newsletter, and out of that came an organization that has now grown to over 300 organizations and 2,500 members. So she was in the vanguard when there were fewer than a dozen auditors' offices in the country. She worked hard to create elected auditors at Metro and at Washington County. Both of those positions were created as a result of her influence and encouragement for accountability. And she continues to oversee those in the sense that she meets with potential candidates and considers endorsing them. And I was one of the lucky ones to get her endorsement, and I've continually kept in touch with her, and I consider her a mentor. And I remember many times I would meet with her and kind of bemoan a challenge that I had either in the city or the county, and realized that she'd been there before and she had good advice and good solutions. So I've appreciated the relationship for over 30 years now. And from the standpoint of what she's accomplished, I think I owe her a great deal. And I think she changed the face of auditing, not only in the Northwest, but nationally. And I think we all owe her a great deal. So thank you, Jim.
My turn. Jewel Lansing. I didn't put anything in writing, so I'm going to be very informal to tell you when I talk about commissioners, they're not talked about, for instance, for Commissioner Fritz, it would be Amanda or Nick or whatever. And that was the day before TV cameras. And believe me, that made a great difference when the TV cameras came in and captured that. Margaret Strawn, I remember there's one very famous meeting at which they were talking about a hot tub up someplace in northwest Portland. And Margaret said, it's not just the blankety blank hot tub, except it wasn't blankety blank. And here's Mildred going over the airwaves with her. So she got in a car and zipped out to channel, I guess it was Channel 2 then, and talk them into withholding those cherished words. So now you know what history does not know. Or did I put it in my book? I think I might have put it in the book. I have to say that one of the great things about this job has been that I had the opportunity to learn about the city of Portland and Multnomah County, Oregon too, and to put it in a book. It's called Portland People, Politics, and Power, and it is now seen as pretty much a major reference work that people use. I use it all the time myself, so it must be okay. Yeah, the interesting thing about Mildred, who was the third woman, and Connie McCready was the second woman. The first one was, who was the first one?
Dorothy
Dorothy McKellar Lee. But she was 40 years before, and she was appointed. They were all appointed. In fact, Margaret Strawn was the first one who was ever elected. And I was appointed too, rather than elected. But what was I should have brought it in writing, shouldn't I? Well, it was that Mildred and Margaret were sometimes, how should we say it, at odds with each other. And the same with Mildred and Connie McCready. Connie was only mayor for 8 months until she got appointed, and then she lost at the ballot to Frank Ivancy. And the time that I came over to City Hall from the county was just at the time that the only women who had been in office here were, as I say, Dorothy McCullough Lee, and then Connie McCready, who was married to one of the editors at the Oregonian, and she got the appointment to the Senate, but then she lost, as I said, at the ballot box, and then Margaret Strawn, and then me. I remember one night, Gretchen Kafori and I were at a party where there were about, I think, maybe it was when we were playing poker, and there were 4 or 5 of us there, and we were talking about how few women there were in the Portland City Council, and we said, hey, Gretchen, do you realize that half of the body of City of Portland is here in this room tonight? Well, I am pleased to have my husband, Ron, of 62 years here. Ron, would you stand? Daughters Elise and Annette, and my son-in-law Joe. And I was just pleased to hear that the balcony is full of people today. How about that? Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. So it is my honor to read this proclamation, but before I do, a point of privilege. I was meeting with the young women this morning from the Rose Festival Court, Jewel. They were having a breakfast here as their tradition every year, and I believe you were here when we were acknowledging them in the chamber earlier. And one had asked me effectively, what kind of difference can a person make if they're committed to changing the community? And I wish they didn't have the busy schedule that I know that they have, because I would have liked for them to have seen the impact that you have made. And as I thought about the introductory remarks that the auditors have made here about the circumstances that you came into when you first ran for office, and the history that we are now seeing unfold before us, where the county commission is all women, that on January 1st of this year, the city council will be 3 women and 2 men. And we all too often in this community forget that the auditor is a very important, independently elected position. 4 of the 6 of us who are holding elective office in the city of Portland will be women. And that is something my daughter can look to and see as a normalized situation, whereas a generation ago that was not the case. And it's because of you and your leadership and the very few people like you who really made a courageous step into the public sector. And you have changed the community irreparably and positively. And I'm just so pleased to have you here. Frankly, when I heard all these auditors were going to be in City Hall, I started to get a little sweaty palm, and I wondered if this was some sort of an elaborate sting operation.
Intervention, Mayor.
But now that I know that it's not, Jewel, we're just delighted to have you here. So, whereas Jewel Lansing holds an important place in local government history through her tireless advocacy for accountability and the preservation of the history of the city of Portland and Multnomah County. And whereas Jewel has inspired and encouraged numerous other women to run for public office. And whereas Jewel was one of 2 women in 1974 elected to Multnomah County government, the first women to hold elective office there. And whereas in 1982, Jewel was the first woman elected as City of Portland auditor, and only the 5th woman elected to city office. And whereas in 1986, under her leadership, Jewel introduced performance auditing to the City of Portland and successfully proposed a charter change to the people of Portland to ensure performance auditing remained a critical and binding city function. And whereas Jewel dedicated her career to improving the transparency, accountability, and effectiveness of government operations through auditing and documentation of history. Whereas City Hall has no rooms named for prominent women in its history, and Auditor Mary Hull Caballero has ordered the conference room in City Hall Suite 130 to be renamed the Jewel Lansing Room. And whereas a grateful City of Portland is more equitable and accountable place for her efforts and her leadership, now therefore I, Ted Wheeler, Mayor of the City of Portland, Oregon, the City of Roses, do hereby proclaim May 23rd, 2018 to be Jewel Lansing Day in Portland, and encourage all residents to observe this day. Thank you, Jewel. Collins, did you have anything to share?
Mayor, I have a question.
Commissioner Fish.
I just have a quick comment and a question. The comment is that since Auditor Lansing referenced her 2 works of history of the city and the county, when I was first thinking of running for office, I read the history of Portland that she wrote, and I did an outline because I figured as a transplant I needed to know the history. And years later, when I shared that with her, Jewel said, "Why don't you send me a copy of your outline?" And I sent it to her, and true story, she sent it back with a number of corrections. And She audited my outline. But I wanted to ask her a question because you are sort of the historian of this city and county. This past cycle, when I was on the ballot, I went to a lot of forums, and the way they were usually structured is the auditor's race came first. So I would watch the 3 candidates for Multnomah County Auditor debate, and before my panel was invited up. And Jewel, I don't remember the last time we had that kind of competition for an auditor position. So my question is that the norm, or is that an exception to have a field of a number of very highly qualified people running for the auditor position?
It's pretty much the exception, should we say.
It's the exception. I guess we'd say it's a healthy thing, right? Mary was unopposed. I'm not trying to get sideways with the auditor. But it was interesting because I don't remember a debate like that, and I think for a lot of people, it was the first time they heard, highly qualified people debating the role of the auditor. So I think it was very good for democracy. Thank you.
I'd just like to thank you, Jewel, for all your service and chronicling of Portland's history. Your book certainly is the Bible as far as that goes. And I thought, since there's 3 auditors up here, I had to ask. I mean, I think I've been in public office almost 25 years. I think I know what performance auditing is. But I wanted to ask, there's people watching today who are probably wondering, what is performance auditing? So maybe I thought I'd ask, what is the opposite of performance auditing?
The opposite of?
Since we've had it since 1986, I'm not sure I know what the opposite is. What did it used to be like before
I think
Jewel came in and shook things up?
When Jewel came in, it was mostly around financial controls. So now we outsource our audit of the financial statements to a CPA firm. And Jewel did a lot of accounting-related kinds of auditing and around financial controls. And when she got into the charter that we would do performance auditing, that is now all that the staff of my office do is performance auditing. So she completely changed the landscape of auditing. And so we look at how things are performing, what programs working, and then we also have that financial statement audit as well. So we're coming at you every way we can think of.
Okay. Well, thank you.
I just realized I forgot to tell you about the very dramatic moment, the most dramatic moment in my tenure around here. It was when performance auditing dollars were proposed in the budget, proposed by Mildred Schwab, opposed by Frank Ivensee, bitterly opposed by him. And when the vote came, there was a picture in the Oregonian the next day that showed all 5 of the commissioners. Frank is looking over this way, won't even look at me. and the other 4 voted for it. And it was, that picture was on the front page of the Oregonian. Granted, it was the afternoon edition, but still it was there. And when I took that back to Washington, D.C. and talked to auditors from around the country, they'd never heard of a place where the media was that interested in audits.
Great. Commissioner Udaley.
Jewel, I just want to say congratulations and that it's been a treat to get to spend some time with you and get to know you. Jewel's book that people have been mentioning is called Portland, People, Politics, and Power, 1851 to 2001. So just a little light bedside reading if anyone's interested. It is one of my, I've said it before, I say it again, I'm a little bit of an auditor fangirl, and when Jewel came to council the first time when I was here, I had someone run to my office and grab that book so she could autograph it. And I just want to say, while all of us bring valuable and unique skills and gifts to City Hall, it is a comfort to know that there is someone upstairs with specific qualifications who help hold us accountable and help us to stay the course. So I really appreciate the relationship with the city auditor, and I'm excited to sit in that conference room.
Thank you. So as is tradition, we'd love to have a photograph If we could do it in front, maybe that's the easiest, or wherever's Auditor
Council and
Hill Caballero.
you and Gary?
Yes. You want to stay in your seat and just turn around?
That might be easiest.
Okay.
That might be
Joel.
easiest.
Do you want to just stay in your seat, or do you want to stand up?
I don't care, whatever.
Why don't you sit down, and then I'll just turn your seat around in case it takes a while to get everything organized. And I'll just turn you around. Actually, we'll put you in the middle.
We can slide over here.
Okay.
Auditor, could I get you to hold this? Yes.
Ready, 1, 2, 3, look at me, 1, 2, 3.
Right here now.
Excellent.
Congratulations. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. Wonderful seeing you.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you, Madam Auditor.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Mr.
Mr. Auditor, thank you. It's good seeing you again.
Another day.
That was wonderful.
Congratulations on your re-election. Yeah.
I love that. I never forget that. That's great.
See you, Gary.
I hope you enjoy retirement like that.
Yeah. I think I will.
I think you will too, you're jealous.
I'll brush up on my card game if you ever want
There
to run me
you go.
over.
I think you love the poker game.
Although I've heard you're ruthless.
She is.
Auditor, is there, there's some people, is there a reception?
Yes.
I know you do. I know you do.
There is a reception now to honor Jewel Lansing. It is in room 130 downstairs, otherwise known as the Jewel Lansing Room. Yeah! So enjoy the reception, room 130.
Mayor, can we take a 1-minute break?
Yeah, we'll take a 1-minute recess. in session. Item number 500, please.
Authorize an intergovernmental agreement with Home Forward for an annual amount of $640,000 to assist City of Portland utility customers that encounter barriers in paying water and sewer services.
Commissioner Fish.
Thank you, Mayor and colleagues. In 1995, Portland became one of the first big cities in the nation to offer low-income customers discounts on their utility bills. Well, Portland has changed quite a bit since then, and the City Council has appropriately updated the financial assistance program from time to time over the last 20 years. The premise of our program has always been simple. Some of our neighbors need a little extra help, and over the past 3 years, the Portland Water Bureau and the Bureau of Environmental Services have taken a number of steps to expand and improve the program. In 2015, I appointed a work group to find new ways to make sure all eligible customers knew about our programs and to see whether they could finally find a way to offer these benefits to renters. This work has continued since then. In the summer of 2017, our team, including Liam Frost, who has joined us today. Mayor, Liam has been stolen from us by the county and will be serving as Deborah Kafoury's, Chair Kafoury's housing advisor. But we're pleased that he is there and is serving as, to use the language of the day, a spy for the city. But we congratulate Liam on this, this very important assignment. But our team, including Liam Frost, picked up where that work group left off and started working closely with nonprofit community partners to put together a proposal. Last October, the city auditor audited the program and gave us recommendations to help us assist more customers. All of this work is coming together in this year's budget, which implements the changes Liam and our team developed to make historic investments to expand the program. The item before us today will, for the very first time, allow us to reach cost-burdened renters in apartments with our programs. Now, let me say that again because this is a historic moment. This program, as proposed for the first time, will allow us to reach cost-burdened renters in apartments with our programs. We're proposing to expand a proven approach with Home Forward and other community social service agencies. And I'm pleased that many of our key partners are with us today. Here's the run of show. First, we'll hear from the Portland Water Bureau team and invited testimony. And then we'll have council discussion and more public testimony. And the vote will be scheduled next week. I want to acknowledge and invite forward our first panel, Gabe Salmer, Deputy Director of the Portland Water Bureau, and Kathy Cook, Customer Service Manager. We also have Ian Singerland, who's the Director of Homeless Initiatives at Home Forward, who I think is on the second panel, but he's crashing the first panel, so welcome as well. Thank you. And Gabe, take it away.
Thank you so much. Good morning, Mayor, Commissioners. My name is Gabe Salmer. I'm the Deputy Director of the Portland Water Bureau, and I will just start by saying thank you for hearing this important issue. This is really an exciting time to bring this milestone to you, and you have been a big part of this. This has been part of the budget, and so while we're talking about just a piece of our financial program today, you have really been with us all the way in creating this. I'm very proud to introduce the presenters for today. Joining me are Kathy Cook, the Water Bureau's Customer Service Director, who will explain a little bit more about the low-income services that the Bureau offers and how the multi-family program fits into that suite of services, and Ian Slingerland, the Homeless Initiatives Director at Home Forward, to walk you through how our agreement connects the Water Bureau to a trusted and existing program. And then in our second panel, we will hear from David DiMatteo from the Latino Network on his perspective of how a multifamily assistance programs benefits the communities that he serves, and close our testimony, invited testimony, with Janice Thompson, the Advocacy Director at the Citizens Utility Board, who's been a leading voice in oversight for the Bureau in this and many other issues. We also have Karen Moynihan from the City Attorney's Office, Jonas Beery from BES, Elliot Lysak, and Ashley Jaden from the Water Bureau, should you have any questions that they can help answer. And I do want to acknowledge some additional special guests today. The service providers watching here and at home that have made this day possible with their dedication to our multifamily communities for many, many years. AARP, Elders in Action, Latino Network, Self-Enhancement, Inc., Human Solutions, I believe Ala is here today, El Programa Hispano, Impact Northwest, IRCO, the Immigrant and Refugee Community Organization, NEA, and I believe Irina is here, and the Native American Youth and Family Center, Independent Living Resources, and Age Friendly Portland. We are so grateful for their support in bringing you this program. I'd also like to thank the many Portland Utility Board members who've shaped this process and given feedback and support. And I want to acknowledge the Auditor's Office, and particularly Jennifer Scott, whose audit last year gave incredibly useful direction that we've woven into this and many of our other programs. And I will just give a special mention to Liam Frost, who has abandoned us, but is here today. And Liam was a crucial catalyst in bringing all of these pieces together. They all existed, but he was able to dedicate himself to this program over the year, and we wish him all the best in his new position. So just to provide a little bit of context, you'll remember that we were before you on this item in February for a work session, and that this also came up in the budget work session. But today we are here just to talk about the intergovernmental agreement, the IGA proposal. It's part of a larger package to strengthen and expand our existing services for low-income customers. And we thank you again for your support of those items in the approved budget. And now I want to turn it over to Kathy to talk about how we're leveraging an existing service to provide that utility assistance to our multifamily customers.
Gabe, before we recognize Kathy, can I just make one other comment? Commissioner Saltzman and I were talking offline before we came back live about how long the city has been working on this issue. And I just want to acknowledge that this is a challenge which utilities across the country have struggled with. And the reason that they have struggled is that the discount programs that most utilities offer operate off of usage, which means when a customer has a meter, the utilities track the amount of services used, and the discount is linked to your monthly bill. The challenge that we've had with renters is that most renters in this city don't have an individually metered service. That may change someday in the future if the city updates its building code and mandates that there be individual meters. But since many of the people that we're now trying to serve don't have a meter, it presented some very interesting and unique legal and practical challenges about figuring out how you could deliver the benefit to someone that you're not otherwise tracking the amount of water and services they're using. And it took some time, and I want to acknowledge Karen Moynihan and others in the city attorney's office who worked with us to come up with a practical, efficient, and legal mechanism to extend the discount program to cost-burdened renters. And this is sort of a historical day that we've gotten here, and this may be a model that other cities in the country choose to pursue. So I'm very proud that we're at this point.
I'm very proud too, and I think it's a testament to the excellent customer service work that we do in the Bureau that has led us to this point and has given us all of these pieces to put together to bring you today.
Kathy? By the way, Kathy is the only employee of the Water Bureau who has a particular term in her contract that prohibits her from taking another job or retiring for any period of time.
I do have 1 year, 10 months. Good morning. As you know, we're already recognized across the nation as having one of the most generous and far-reaching financial assistance programs. We've recently been asked to present again regarding affordability at an American Water Works Association symposium in Washington, D.C., so we'll be doing that in August. As a reminder, there's only 3 out of 10 water utilities across the nation that provide any kind of financial assistance at all. Our current program provides a bill discount, an annual crisis voucher, a safety net program for the unexpected, a fixture repair program for low-income homeowners, interest-free long-term flexible payment arrangements, and free water conservation kits. We've always been able to reach the owners and renters through a single-family residence program, but people who reside in multifamily units don't get a bill directly from us. We didn't have a way to reach them. In the past, we've struggled with the legal requirement of making sure the discount benefits the actual water user, as opposed to giving a discount on a landlord's bill and expecting them to pass it on to their tenant. We are thrilled about the opportunity to expand this program further, and for the first time ever, to assist low-income renters in multifamily units. We now have the opportunity to enter into an unprecedented partnership with Home Forward, who already has a proven program in place to make sure help gets where help is needed. I believe we're the first in the nation to take this approach. With funding provided by the Portland Water Bureau and the Bureau of Environmental Services, Home Forward will be able to provide up to $500 a year to renters who reside in multifamily units within our service area and that are at risk of eviction, as a way to help citizens remain in their homes. Providing assistance is not new for us. Providing assistance in this manner to these customers is new. The first year will be a learning and developing year. We will look at what worked well and where we can make improvements. On an equally good note, we are not only enhancing our program, we are enhancing our team. I'm very excited to announce that our new financial assistance program manager will be joining us on June 4th. She has years of experience working and living in multiple countries and serving culturally diverse communities here and abroad, and she can analyze data with the best of them. We will certainly report back to council with our first year results, but I'd like to hand it over to Ian to explain more about the short-term rental assistance program.
Thanks. Mayor, Commissioners, thanks for the opportunity to be here. Home Forward is the public housing authority that serves Multnomah County. We develop, own, and manage affordable housing and run a variety of rent assistance programs, the largest being the Housing Choice Voucher Program. In April, we served nearly 15,000 households across our housing and rent assistance programs in Multnomah County. For the last decade, Home Forward has administered the short-term rent assistance program, also known as STRAW, on behalf of jurisdictional and funding partners. Currently, STRAW consolidates funding from the City of Portland, Multnomah County, Home Forward, and the United Way. Through STRAW, Home Forward contracts with 19 different community agencies to deliver emergency and short-term housing assistance. The flexible housing assistance we provide is aligned with service capacity at our funded partners, so that partner agencies have the ability to work with families to take short-term housing and assistance and find ways to turn that short-term assistance into long-term housing stability. And in fact, the performance metric that we use for the short-term housing program is housing retention after the end of assistance. And so the primary metric we're looking at is how many families maintained housing stability 12 months after the end of their assistance. The goal across the system is 70%, and as a program, we've consistently met that benchmark over the last decade. Across the system, STRAW agencies provide a combination of eviction prevention, housing placement, and short-term motel vouchers. STRAW combines multiple funding streams, and while some of the funding streams come with specific regulatory limitations, when packaged together, STRAW resources are flexible and support the range of expenses that families might need to either avoid eviction or get placed into new housing. This new partnership with the Water Bureau and BES will expand resources at agencies to provide eviction prevention rent assistance. We know that expanding our efforts to keep people from becoming homeless is a critical component of our broader efforts to end homelessness in our community. When we can intervene to prevent eviction, it limits devastating disruptions that families experience when they're displaced or experience homelessness. Preventing eviction enables families to maintain connections at school and at work and in their social networks. And we know that it's less expensive than finding new housing once a family is forced into homelessness. We look forward to building this partnership over the coming year, working with the Water Bureau and our agency partners to integrate this critical new resource into the existing STRAW service infrastructure. And we greatly value the leadership of the Water Bureau, Commissioner Fish, and this council in identifying strategies to protect the most vulnerable utilizers of our public utilities.
Ian, thank you very much. And I just want to say that one of the features of this new initiative that I'm especially proud of is the partnership with Home Forward. instead of creating our own system and the bureaucracy that goes with that, we are partnering with a high-performing community agency that has an existing program which will administer the funds. And I think that's actually smart government. And you have a good track record, the short-term rent assistance program. If I had $1 extra every year left from the budget, I would put it into straw, because we've seen the results in preventing people from losing their tenancy, preventing people from falling into homelessness, or rapidly rehousing people, as you've noted. So it's a great program, and we look forward to the partnership. Mayor, I have two other invited guests I'd like to bring forward. They are David DiMatteo, a Family Stability Manager for the Latino Network, and Janice Thompson of the Oregon Citizens Utility Board. Welcome to both of you.
Welcome and thank you.
Dave, you want to go first?
Sure. Good morning. I'm David DiMatteo, Family Stability Manager from Latino Network. I just wanted to say thank you to the Mayor and City Council, in particular Commissioner Fish and Water Bureau staff who've been working so diligently to make this policy a reality. So as has been mentioned, this really innovative approach would allow us to extend the same benefits currently available to our account holder clients to low-income Water Bureau customers in our multifamily units. For Latino Network families, this could mean the difference between maintaining rental housing and being forced out into a shelter, onto a couch, or into the street. By allowing us to quickly deliver one-time assistance to households who are facing significant hardships, sudden loss of income, unexpected illness, or other unplanned for expense, we can be a stitch in time that actually saves a family from going through something truly devastating and completely unnecessary. I really couldn't be happier with the way that this policy developed. In particular, Liam Frost and Ashley Jaden meeting with our staff at Latino Network, going back months and months. It's been a very inclusive process. I believe that our voices were definitely heard and the need is being met. So thank you.
Thank you very much. Janice, welcome.
Janice Thompson, Oregon Citizens Utility Board, or CUB. CUB has been a longtime supporter of low-income customer assistance efforts in the private, both telecom and energy utilities. That has been so much of our work over our long history. So we carried this interest into our involvement in oversight of the Portland's public utilities. However, taking a look at these programs, the current, or the programs prior to this action and this budget, there was really some, I think, unintended, but still, unintended but unfortunate inequities in the Water Bureau BES low-income discount program. Along the way, I had conversations with folks in Commissioner Fish's office and Water Bureau staff about it's just a really intractable problem of how do you deal with a program that, though robust, could, for very valid reasons, only be offered to public utility customers whose residence had its own meter, so they got a bill. And that dynamic means the discount primarily, has been available to single-family homes, which are more likely to be owner-occupied. Increasingly, the rent-burdened renters are the ones who, were particularly in need. So, however, all those dynamics meant that the discount couldn't be offered to most of those multifamily and low-income renters. So the approach before you today, I think, reflects very innovative thinking that tackles this issue of coming at it from a whole different angle. I certainly hope that conversations I've had along the way with Water Bureau staff were helpful, but I want to really give a major tip of the hat to them for crafting the strategic partnership with Home Forward and its STRAW program, and also particularly highlight the valuable and extensive input that was obtained from groups like Latino Network, who have much needed insights for implementation success. So 3 final quick points. One, just that Commissioner Fish mentioned, is this is not a Portland-only problem, and I just think that bears repeating in the press and whatnot. That just seems like, oh, Portland, they haven't been able to figure this out. Well, nobody else has either. This Portland approach is cutting edge and indeed does merit national attention, so it's kind of gratifying to hear that Kathy is going to, be presenting at a national meeting of her peers. And the third point is that, pending evaluation, expansion of this approach really needs to be, I think, considered. We're talking about $600,000 compared to, I think, in the ballpark of $6 million that goes to the existing, discount program that, like I say, for lots of good reasons, isn't available to the low-income renter. So that's it.
Good.
Questions for our panel, Alex?
Nope, that's very thorough. I'm appreciative of this work. Do we have public testimony on this item, Carla?
No one signed up.
Commissioner Fish, last word?
Could I just say
Commissioner
something?
Fritz.
I just want to acknowledge, Commissioner Fish, your leadership on this and your continued heart for people who are renting and who are low income. And thank you to you and Liam Frost for finding a solution. Thank you to Gabe Solmer, Kathy Cook, and everybody else who's been part of this. I think it's phenomenal. And I hope we will get a report back after a year because, as was just pointed out, it's still inequitable between homeowners and renters. And I think that there may be some additional funding that could be used should it be that would be appropriate if it is successful. So thank you very much for your willingness to keep an eye on it, bring it back to us. And again, thank you, Commissioner Fish.
Yeah, if I could also just say, if this were not a very, very complicated and thorny issue, somebody would have figured out how to solve it, and nobody has, as you said right up front. And I'm also appreciative that Commissioner Fish is not doing what every other elected official in the United States has done on this subject, which is ignore it and hope it goes away. Commissioner Fish is taking a principled stand, moving the ball forward. No, it will not be a perfect solution. I think we all acknowledge that, but it definitely moves the ball forward in a very important and significant way. And I'm really appreciative of that. So without further ado, this is a first reading of a non-emergency ordinance. It moves to second reading. Thank you all.
Thank you.
Next item, let's see, 501.
501.
Yeah, is Dan? I believe he's pulling.
We just lost the quorum anyway.
One moment. Carla, on item 501, it's my understanding that Dan was pulling that back to his office. Had he given you any direction to that?
I didn't have that information, but.
All right, with that, let's call 506, please.
Is Dan coming back? Thank you.
506, please.
Okay, 506. Amend fee schedules for building, electrical, mechanical, plumbing, and land use services.
This is the second reading. Any further questions, comments? Great.
Thank you.
Call the roll.
Fish.
Aye.
Fritz.
Thank you for your work. Aye.
Wheeler.
Good job. Aye. Ordinance is adopted. Next, item 507.
Amend fee schedules for tree permits.
Commissioner Fritz.
Thank you, Mayor, and I'm happy to welcome City Forester Jen Cairo, who will tell us about this item.
Good morning, Commissioner.
Morning.
Good morning, Mayor. Good morning, Commissioner Fish. So I'm Jen Cairo, for the record, the City Forester and Urban Forestry Division Manager, and I'm presenting today the proposed fee increases for tree permits that would be implemented starting in the new fiscal year 18-19.
Keep going.
Okay, thank you.
Sorry.
Urban Forestry's development fee permits, tree permit costs partially cover the cost of performing urban forestry's regulatory work as directed by City Code Title 11, the Tree Code. Our objective since Title 11 implementation in 2015 has been to move towards full cost recovery in certain permit types over several years. Currently, in this fiscal year, urban forestry's development tree permits are at 44% cost recovery, resulting in a funding gap of more than $1 million. By comparison, other development permit issuing bureaus are at 75 to 100% cost recovery for those services. In the meantime, urban forestry's development permit volume has increased substantially since 2015, while our staffing levels have remained relatively constant. So further background on these proposed fee increases, these are part of budget package PK 33, which is in the current approved budget. And these proposed increases to development permit fees, as almost all of the proposed increases are in the development rather than the non-development side of permits, are associated with that budget package. And that budget package was created to respond to the mayor's directive to expedite development permitting and increase service levels. In September of 2017, the city auditor also released a report on Title 11 implementation, which stated that urban forestry had insufficient staffing and recommended increasing financial support through fees to try to bridge that gap. So this is a result of those items. These increased development tree permit fees will allow us to add 9 new positions to our division, and that will enable us to reorganize our staff so that those staff who do permit service work will no longer have to be pulled off of permit work to respond to tree emergencies 24/7 in city rights-of-way. If you look at attachment B in your packet, that lists out the specific fee changes. Again, these are almost all to development type tree permit requirements rather than non-development. And if you look at the first column, that's the current fee. The fourth column is the proposed new fee. And you'll see the third column is what the actual cost is. So in most cases, we're increasing on the order of $200 per permit, bringing most closer to full cost recovery, and in a few instances, the new fee would put us at current full cost recovery.
And I would just interject that the intention is to bring it to full cost recovery next year.
Correct. And as a reminder, we're speaking about the development tree permit fees right now. We also have a lot of permit activity in non-development, and in those cases, we have to think carefully about creating barriers to compliance with our permit fees. So we expect that some of those will always need to be in less than full cost recovery to some degree. This information was presented to the Development Review Advisory Committee, in April, and also the Urban Forestry Commission in May. And as a result, there was discussion at those meetings around the relationship between system development charges and permits, adapting in the future to fluctuations in economic conditions as well as permit volumes. There was also some discussion of compliance and would we be at some point capturing compliance, code compliance needs in cost, in our fee rates rather. And also the final comment was the pace of moving to full cost recovery, that some folks wanted to see it move a little more quickly, although we've committed to doing that at a more gradual pace. So aside from the development tree permit fee changes, we're also proposing a new tree root inspection fee. It is a low rate that will partially recover some of the costs of doing that work. Prior to this year, we haven't had a means to effectively implement charging at all for that service. Thankfully, we've been working with the Bureau of Transportation on their online payment system, which will make it possible for this actually to be implemented. That's all I have for you. Any questions, I'd be happy to try to answer them.
Colleagues, any question? Any public testimony on this item, Carla?
No one signed up.
Very good. This is a first reading of a non-emergency ordinance. It moves to second reading. Thank you. Great work.
Thank you.
Back to item 501, please.
Amend City Comprehensive Financial Management Policy 2.04.
Commissioner Saltzman.
Thank you, Mayor. I'd like to return this to my office for a couple weeks.
Very good. Next item, please, item 508.
Amend the transportation fee schedule to incorporate the multimodal incentive fees for the pre-approved transportation demand management plan per City Code Chapter 17.107 and exempt affordable dwelling units from the multimodal incentive fee until June 30, 2020.
Commissioner Saltzman.
Thank you, Mayor. I want to call up staff to...
I thought you were moving this one to tomorrow afternoon.
Oh, that's right. I'm sorry. Could I move this to tomorrow afternoon for our 2 o'clock time certain?
2:30.
2:30. Okay, sorry.
2:30 time certain.
That's 2:30.
Does that work,
Sorry
Carla?
about that, yeah.
It's the 2 p.m.
2 p.m.?
Yes.
2 p.m.
Okay,
Okay.
2 p.m. Good. Very good. Next item, 509, please.
509, revised transportation fees, rates, and charges for fiscal year 2018, 19, and fix an effective date.
Very good. Commissioner Saltzman.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. This is Transportation's yearly update to their fees and charges. And we have staff here to quickly walk us through the item and answer any questions council may have. And this is a first reading of a non-emergency ordinance.
Good morning, Mayor Wheeler.
Morning.
Commissioner Saltzman.
Oh, could you turn that mic on? It got turned off. Thank you.
Is that better?
Yes, the green light. Yes, you're right.
It's on. All right, great. Thank you. Good morning, Mayor Wheeler, Commissioners. I'm Alex Bejarano, Utilities Construction Inspection Division Manager in the Development Committee and Transit Group of the Bureau of Transportation. With me is Michael Jacobs in the Parking Division of the Parking Services Group of PBOT. Today, PBOT is submitting its annual fee ordinance for your consideration. Through this effort, PBOT presents its fees in a transparent and predictable manner. This annual update of transportation fees, rates, and charges are developed in accordance with city policy. The rates in this ordinance become effective July 1st, 2018 through June 30th, 2019. However, the current community event fee structure for 2018 will remain in place until December 31st of this year. And on January 1st, 2019, the new Exhibit H will go into effect. The reason for this offset fee schedule for Exhibit H is to avoid fee changes in the middle of the highest demand for the community events, which is midsummer. PBOT made this change due to feedback received during our public outreach efforts redeveloping the community events program this last year. It is important to note that this ordinance, PBOT is not changing or modifying any existing administrative rules or policies, nor does this fee ordinance add any positions or adjustment to the proposed budget. In developing our fees, PBOT relies on a cost recovery model to carry out specific requests from customers in reviewing and providing permissions to persons wanting to use or construct within the public rights-of-way. In some cases, our fees are market rate, while others include incentives and consequences. PBOT makes every attempt to be responsive to the public as we develop or overhaul new or existing programs. One example of this is the fees associated with block party permits. This permit type is now free, based upon the feedback we received during our outreach efforts. Most of the fee increases you may see are the result of inflation and because of development and growth within our city. To further discuss and highlight some of the more notable items and changes for the parking and regulatory fee schedules, I will turn the presentation over to Michael Jacobs. Thank you. Good morning, Mayor and Commissioners.
Morning.
The Parking and Regulatory Group with PBOT uses rates for on and off-street parking to manage parking supply and demand. Rates serve PBOT to manage parking demand, ensuring short-term parking is a priority for turnover while supporting city goals for economic vitality. The regulatory branch of PBOT sets fees for private for-hire transportation, permitting, and towing. In parking operations, over half of the fees are staying the same. Some of the changes I wanted to highlight and include with the APP permits. The increase goes from $60 to $75 annually, in part because there's been no increase over the last 5 years, and staff has been added to administer the program that has grown substantially from under 20,000 permits per year to nearly 35,000 permits annually. In the disabled parking program, the monthly permit increased from $182 to $189, which still allows for a 10% discount off of the market rate. The scratch-off tickets from $2.40 to $6 is based on the current meter rates. With carpool, media, and nonprofit permits, we're looking at an annual approximately 10% increase in order to manage demand of our limited parking supply. With Smart Park, it is seeing a number of rate adjustments, which were shared with the Portland Business Alliance and the Downtown Retail Council, and they had no objections to our proposals. The adjustments are based on market rate and parking system management criteria. And then a couple of housekeeping items with the parking permits. We had unusual circumstance permits and replacement permits. Historically, they've been listed as variable rates. They, however, really don't vary, and so we're listing them at $90 and $15 respectively. And at this time, we'd be happy to answer any questions that you might have.
I'm just curious, what's an unusual circumstance permit? I mean, just
actually,
can you give us an example of an unusual circumstance?
Because I work in Smart Park, I'm going to ask somebody from parking operations to come up and answer that question.
Well, that's okay. I mean, that's okay. I was just
I'm
curious.
sorry, I don't have an example for you.
Just caught my attention, that one. Okay. Any public testimony?
That makes it easy. Very good. This is a first reading of a non-emergency.
No one signed up.
This is a first reading of a non-emergency ordinance. It moves to second reading. Thank you, gentlemen. Thanks, Dan.
Okay.
Next item, 510.
Authorize a competitive solicitation and contract with the lowest responsible bidder and provide payment for construction of the structural rehabilitation of Taggart Outfall 30, project number E10220, for an estimated cost of $8 million.
Commissioner Fish.
Mayor, it appears that our team is not here for whatever reason, so with your permission, I'd like to set this over till next week.
Very good. Wait.
What? Here he is.
Da, 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 da.
That's a very dramatic entrance. So,
I apologize, I was hustling over
Scott
here.
Gibson. So, okay, I withdraw my request. Mayor and colleagues, the Bureau of Environmental Services needs to repair about 3,700 feet of the 110-year-old brick Taggart outfall so that it can operate for another century. The 100-foot diameter brick outfall conveys combined sewer flows away from the city's largest basin in southeast Portland during heavy rainfalls. Scott Gibson, principal engineer from the Bureau of Environmental Services, is here with a brief presentation. Scott?
Thank you. Good afternoon. Good morning. I apologize for the late arrival. So for the record, my name is Scott Gibson. I'm a principal engineer at City of Portland Bureau of Environmental Services, and I'm here to tell you a little bit about the Taggart Sewer and request your authorization for a construction contract. The sewer under consideration today is a 10-foot diameter brick outfall. It was built in 1906. The sewer conveys combined sewage from the city's largest basin, which we call Taggart. In the picture at the top of this slide, you can see the brick sewer where it was recently exposed during construction of the Portland-Milwaukee light rail train. The outfall was found to have deterioration while conducting inspections of our large sewers. And in the middle picture, you see two members of our engineering team preparing to be lowered into the sewer as a part of our inspection and assessment work. The project will construct 3,400 feet of structural liner system to extend the useful life of the outfall for an additional 100 years. In the lower picture, you see a typical installation of tunnel liner plate, which is the chosen repair methodology for this project. The repair results in a new steel structure assembled within the pipe designed to resist the predicted loads. The project map shows the location of the sewer and specifically identifies the areas where the workers and materials will enter the sewer to conduct the repair. The orange circles show where work will be conducted after hours. The purple circles show where work will be limited to normal hours. There are two example photos. The one on the top is an industrial area where we will be working 24/7, and the lower section is an example where there are residences within 500 feet and we'll be limiting our activities to during the day.
Scott, hold this slide for a second. I want to ask my colleagues a question. I don't want to prompt them, but this slide might be helpful. Who is the only 6-star general in American history?
Pershing?
General Pershing. Right in the middle of the slide.
Who's the non-Native American here?
You must have taken some history test.
He's famous worldwide.
Yeah, actually, some people say he and apparently George Washington might have taken a 6-star, but Pershing in the modern era is the only 6-star general.
Thank you.
I didn't know that.
That's why you can make some money in a bar on that one, because people assume it stops at 5.
So excuse
I've
me.
learned 2 things today. One, that the name of the biggest basin is called Taggart. I'm going to remember that one because that's going to come up in a quiz sometime. And then the 6-star general.
6-star general.
Yep.
The
Thank
fun
you.
never ends.
All right, so the Taggart Sewer has served the city well for 112 years. Day and night, it has quietly transported sewage and rainfall away from our homes and businesses where it could be safely treated and disposed of. However, it now requires some attention. Inspections conducted by the Bureau identified voids, cracks, broken and missing brick, missing mortar, protruding laterals, and other defects that require repair. This map shows the locations of the defects along the sewer, and you can note the intensity and density of the defects by the yellow, orange, and red areas. The Bureau has also estimated the risk of sewer failure caused by the identified defects. In this figure, you can see the area of inundation caused by a structural collapse of a 50-foot section. You see where the yellow dot is. We modeled in several locations, but this is for that example. Properties outlined in red are those that would be flooded should the sewer fail there. The map also colored areas that would be impacted by surface inundation. That's the blue and the green. And note that the new max orange line would be impacted in this scenario. As a part of our project, we ran multiple failure scenarios and estimated the consequences and likelihood of the failure of each scenario. And this work was used to confirm that the project should proceed now, and also to help us determine the intensity of the repair selection, or repair method. The Bureau has worked hard to involve and inform residents about the project. On this slide are 2 of the many communications prepared by the project team. The selected repair can be constructed from within the existing pipe, and this will be the biggest factor in minimizing the impacts to residents. However, to take advantage of Portland's dry season, and this work can only be conducted when it's not raining due to sewer flows, Environmental Services will work all hours and all days in the industrial areas between Southeast Grand and Southeast 16th Avenue and adjacent to light rail. Other work where there are residential impacts will be limited. And the project team will continue our outreach efforts to those impacted throughout construction and address any and all concerns as they are raised. The estimated cost for the construction contract is $8 million. The level of confidence in this estimate is high. If approved, construction is scheduled for the dry season of 2019 with some advanced work by the contractor in the sewer this summer or late fall. This figure offers details of the proposed sewer rehabilitation and shows the location of the spot repairs. If there are any questions, I'm happy to take them.
Very good.
Thank you.
Thank you. Is there any testimony on this item, Carla?
No one signed up.
Very good. This is the first reading of a non-emergency ordinance. It moves to second reading. Next item, 511.
Authorize a competitive solicitation and contract with the lowest responsible bidder and provide payment for construction of the Sunnyside North Reconstruction and Green Streets Project number E10367 for an estimated cost of $9.9 million.
Colleagues, this is the second reading of an item that's already been presented. We've already received testimony. Are there any further questions? Please call the roll.
Fish?
Aye.
Saltzman?
Aye.
Fritz?
Aye.
Wheeler?
Aye. The ordinance is adopted. Next item, 512, and I'm told that there is a request that it also be read with item 517. both of which are second readings.
512, revised sewer and stormwater rates, charges, and fees in accordance with the fiscal year 2018-2019 sewer user rate study. And 517, authorized rates and charges for water and water-related services during the fiscal year beginning July 1, 2018 to June 30, 2019, and fix an effective date.
Again, colleagues, these are second readings. Any further questions or comments for staff on these items?
So we're voting on them together?
No, we're going to vote on them separately, but since they're separated, if there were
Okay.
follow-up questions, we just didn't want staff sticking around. Very good. Please call the roll on 512.
Fish.
Well, no one likes to pay more for a basic service, but I'm pleased to report that for the 5th year in a row, we have been able to keep the combined rate increases of our water, sewer, and stormwater customers below 5%. We are heading closer to 4%, and that's a significant milestone with the city's calculation of inflation at about 3.5%. The delta is getting much closer. On the Bureau of Environmental Services side, we are looking in the out years now at a number of years at approximately 3% rate increase. That's below the rate of inflation. And that rate increase includes, built into it, is a commitment this council has made over the next 10 years to get to functional sustainability in our system, meaning to get all of our assets in good or better condition, making BES perhaps the first utility of its kind in the nation to be able to achieve that milestone. So we're making historic investments while also stabilizing rates. I'm very pleased and grateful to all of our oversight bodies, the Citizens Utility Board, the Portland Utility Board, all the members of the public, actually in this case, one member of the public, who came and testified at our rate hearing. The feedback we got from our budget hearings and just the general information that the public shared with us. We are on a good path. We're providing basic services at a fair value. I'm honored to be the commissioner in charge of our utilities, and I'm pleased to vote aye.
Saltzman?
Aye.
Fritz?
So I agree with you, Commissioner Fish, and thank you for your work on this. I actually am glad to pay more in order to be able to get the system onto a sustainable path and to fix it so that we're not passing on a burden of debt to our children and grandchildren. So thank you for figuring out how to do that. Aye.
Wheeler?
Aye. The ordinance is adopted. Please call the roll on 517.
Fish?
This second matter is the rates for the Water Bureau. There is common confusion in the public about the bill they receive. People generally refer to their bill as the water bill. I think sometimes people are surprised to learn that the water portion of their combined utility bill is about a third of the bill, and the rest is sewer, stormwater, and other charges. I got an email the other day from someone saying they were fed up with high water rates, and my polite response was, then don't move from Portland to a number of our suburban jurisdictions, because when you look at our rates compared to some of our sister cities in the region, we're still a relative bargain. It is true that there is pressure on rates, in part because of our obligation to comply with federal regulatory schemes. And while there's a number that we're currently complying with, it may be in the future that Congress, in its wisdom, decides to impose more requirements. But it is nonetheless, when you get your bill, water's about a third, sewer, stormwater is about 2/3. And when the presentation was made to council, I think people could see graphically that we are still in the middle of the pack among sister jurisdictions, again, providing good value at a fair price. Aye.
Saltzman?
Aye.
Fritz?
Aye.
Wheeler?
Aye. The ordinance is adopted. Thank you, everyone. Next item, 513.
Accept bids of Titan Utilities LLC and Iron Horse Excavation LLC, doing business as Oxbow Construction, for the price agreements for construction services at Columbia Boulevard Wastewater Treatment Plant, Tryon Creek Watershed Treatment Plant, and associated pump stations for $6 million.
Commissioner Fish.
Thank you, Mayor and colleagues. This procurement report is for the Bureau of Environmental Services for construction services for the Columbia Boulevard Wastewater Treatment Plant, the Tryon Creek Wastewater Treatment Plant, and associated pump stations. The project was bid to the city's Prime Contractor Development Program. The Prime Contractor Development Program provides minority and women certified contractors with increased prime contracting opportunities within the city of Portland. I would like to introduce Larry Palat, Procurement Services Manager, and Paul Sudo, Principal Engineer from the Bureau of Environmental Services, to give us a brief presentation.
Good morning.
Morning.
Mayor Wheeler and Commissioners, I remembered this time to put my name on the record. You have before you the procurement report recommending 2 price agreements to be awarded to Titan Utilities and Oxbow Construction for a total amount of $6 million. These price agreements for a 2-year period will be utilized as the needs are presented and specific projects identified in the Portland Bureau of Environmental Services budget process. The task orders are limited to $500,000 maximum, with an occasional exception for critical projects with the approval of the Chief Procurement Officer and the Bureau Director. On December 20th, 2017, the Council approved Ordinance 188744 for the Chief Procurement Officer to competitively solicit for these services. The city advertised bid number 806. 2 bids were received and opened on February 13th, 2018. The bids were deemed responsive to the requirements of the solicitation. It is recommended that the bids be accepted and the price agreements be executed. The city issued a notice of intent to award the price agreements April 9th, 2018. No protests were received. This actually is the second time BES has engaged in this type of process. It's kind of internally referred to as the PARUS project. And they've determined that the time and effort savings based on this type of is very significant. Interestingly, both of the firms, as mentioned by Commissioner Fish, are State of Oregon certified disadvantaged minority, women, and emerging small business firms. It was bid into the Prime Contractor Development Program for that reason. All of the work performed actually then ends up in certified firms. Both of these firms are very, very well noted for subcontracting to other DMW ESB firms. So the overall utilization should be very significant. BES has a goal for these projects of a minimum participation level of 30%. So the standard methodology for this is for the bidders to predetermine and list their subcontractors at the time of the award. However, under this process, the bidders will determine their subcontractors at the time each task order is developed. This process allows the contractors to maximize the use of other disadvantaged minority, women, and emerging small business firms as the scopes of work become final. Both of these contractors have an excellent reputation for doing so. As mentioned, they are both State of Oregon certified firms, and they are in full compliance with all of the city's contracting requirements. If the council has any questions regarding the bidding process, I can answer those, or Paul Sudo from BES is here relative to the specific project. Thank you.
Thank you. Colleagues?
Well done. Any public or any public comments on this?
This is a report.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'll entertain a motion then.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Please call the roll.
Fish.
Thank you for your excellent presentation. Aye.
Saltzman.
Aye.
Fritz.
Good work. Thank you. Aye.
Wheeler.
Well done. Aye. Report's adopted.
Thank you all very much.
514, please.
Approve fiscal year 2018-19 cost of living adjustments to pay rates for non-represented classifications and elected officials, specify the effect upon employees in the classifications involved, and provide for payment.
Colleagues, the City Council sets the rates of pay for all non-represented classifications and elected officials. This ordinance provides non-representative classifications 3.6% increase effective 7/1/18, which is consistent with the increase that represented employees will receive per collective bargaining agreements. This ordinance also provides an increase of 3.6% to non-represented seasonal or casual employees, except for when a greater increase is mandated by state minimum wage requirements. The mayor and individual commissioners may request that their salaries be frozen at current levels. We have Elizabeth Nunes from HR here to discuss. Greetings.
Greetings. My name is Elizabeth Nunes. I'm the
sorry,
classification.
Elizabeth, I apologize. I mispronounced your last name. Sorry.
Everyone does, don't worry.
Thank you.
I'm from BHR. I'm the Classification and Compensation Manager. And, well, Mayor Wheeler, you just took all my, all my stuff away. I'm presenting the ordinance to create a 3.6% cost of living increase adjustment to the pay rates for all non-represented employees, the non-represented classifications, and elected officials. The cost for the current fiscal year 2017-18 is zero. For the future 2018-19 fiscal year, the total cost is just under $6.7 million. $3.1 million of that is going to be out of the general fund, and the remaining $3.6 million is for the non-general fund bureaus. Do you have any questions?
I have a
Commissioner
question. So there are different measurements that people refer to for the rate of inflation. We use, as part of our contract, a particular formula, which gets us, in this instance, to 3.6%. Can you just remind us how we get to 3.6% cost of living adjustment?
Yes, I wish I were the city economist, but I'm not. Josh Harwood would really do a good job of explaining it. We have consistently, along with other public jurisdictions, used what's called the CPIW, and it's, I believe, a measure of the second half of the year, last year, brought forward with mathematical calculations to get us to what is expected to be an average for this year and going forward 6 months. That particular index, and there are a number of them, we've recently learned that they're doing away with it. So this is the last year we'll actually get to use it. Going forward, I believe we've already figured out a new index to use, but this is the one that gets us to the most accurate prediction of both in the last 6 months and going forward 6 months, what the average cost of living will be. There have been estimations that it should be higher than 3.6. I've heard estimations up to 5%, but we try and focus in on a consistent measuring tool, and that one this year is 3.6.
I'm from recollection, a few years ago, when interest rates were really historically low, the COLA was, I think, under 1%.
Yeah, 0.9%.
0.9%. And is the rising cost of housing factored into this particular index?
Housing is always a factor. Yes, it's housing, food, clothing, all the standard cost of living things that are considered in any geographical area.
Okay, thank you.
Very good. Is there any public testimony on this item?
No one signed up.
Very good. This is a first reading of the non-emergency ordinance. It moves to second reading. Thank you, Elizabeth. Next item, 515, please.
Revise secondhand dealer regulations to accept consular ID cards as identification, add gift cards as regulated property, and other housekeeping changes.
Very good. And we have Terry Williams and Ann Holm here to discuss.
Good afternoon. I guess we've gone to afternoon. Mayor and Commissioners, I'm Terry Williams, the Revenue Division Deputy Director, or at least for a few more weeks. But before I talk about the ordinance, I want to introduce to you Tyler Wallace, who's up here. Tyler is the new Tax Division Manager for the Revenue Division. So he is, in the future, while I'm doing the presentation today, Tyler is one that you'll expect to see up here.
Thank you, Tyler.
Giving presentations like this. So let's see. The purpose of Chapter 14B.90 is to regulate certain business activities that present an extraordinary risk of being used by criminals to dispose of stolen property. We commonly refer to it as the Secondhand Dealer Code. The ordinance before you today brings two key amendments to the Secondhand Dealer Code, in addition to some needed housekeeping changes. The first is the addition of a consular card as acceptable identification for customers that sell regulated property to secondhand businesses. The need for adding this form of identification was actually brought to Revenue's attention by the city's Government Relations Office. A state legislator from Eugene reached out to government relations, identifying the need to recognize this piece of ID. They also considered a bill at the state, but it didn't pass. Not all countries' consular cards meet the requirements to be accepted. The cards must have requirements similar to our state's driver's license or ID cards. Currently, the Mexican Matricula consular card issued after 2014 meets the requirements. The second amendment is the removal of gift cards, in-store credit cards, and activated phone cards from the list of prohibited property. I'm going to refer to these types of cards as gift cards in general. So this means that secondhand dealer businesses are no longer prohibited from buying these gift cards and reselling them. The benefits of this change are twofold. It allows the dealers to meet customer demand and compete in the secondary market. But more importantly, by regulating the purchase of unused or partially used gift cards, valuable information will be entered into the RAPID database that will allow the Portland Police Bureau to identify people involved in retail theft. To be clear, the change does not impact the original sale of gift cards or phone cards from retailers such as Fred Meyer and Target and Best Buy. The secondhand dealer industry is supportive of this change. Dealers and retailers currently buying these cards would be required to obtain a secondhand dealer permit if they don't already have one. The reporting requirements when buying these cards from customers have been streamlined so that they are not excessively burdensome on the dealers or on the retailer once that permit is obtained. The information about the card and the seller, i.e. the customer, is reported in RAPID. That's the electronic reporting system that makes information about every regulated property transaction available to law enforcement. So, if council has additional questions about the ordinance, we have staff here to explain in more detail. Ann Holm, who's our program administrator from Revenue Division, and Officer Brent Bates, who is the RAPID coordinator from the Portland Police Bureau. They are well versed in all the details of this code. Thank you very much, and if you have questions, we're happy to answer.
I have a question. Are there regulations on how discounted the dealers can buy the cards for? If you've got a $10 gift certificate, is there a minimum that they have to offer to the customer?
I will get Ann up here and she'll see if she can answer that. Yeah.
I'm sorry, Commissioner Fritz, I couldn't hear what your question was.
Is there a standard for how much or little a second-hand dealer has to offer to the customer? If they've got a $10 gift card from Fred Meyer, are they allowed to say, well, I'll give you $1 for it?
Yes, there's no minimum required.
And then in general, do they then sell them at discounts as well?
Yes.
Interesting. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Very good. Thank you. Any testimony on this item?
No one signed up.
Very good. This is a first reading of a non-emergency ordinance. It moves to second reading. Thank you for your hard work on that. Next item, 516, a second reading.
Authorize limited tax revenue bonds in an amount not to exceed $10.5 million to finance replacement of aging fueling system infrastructure at multiple locations across the city.
So we've already had a great presentation on this. We've taken public testimony. This is a second reading. Are there any further comments? Please call the roll.
Fish.
Aye.
Saltzman.
Aye.
Fritz.
Aye.
Wheeler.
Aye. The ordinance is adopted. As is the right of people to pull consent agenda items for further discussion, the entire consent agenda has been pulled today. Items 502.
Extend grant agreements by 1 year and provide additional grant funding not to exceed $350,000 in aggregate with 7 organizations providing services to youth in partnership with Portland Parks and Recreation.
Is there, who pulled this item?
Joe Walsh did.
Mr. Walsh is not here, and as is the tradition. Items that are pulled from the consent agenda are read after the regular agenda, and that is so that we can have staff come to attend. He is not here. Colleagues, any further questions? Commissioner Fritz?
I'm happy to give a 1-minute summary.
If you would like.
As the council will remember, Portland Parks and Recreation gave a presentation on the teen program that starts the expansion of the teen program by previous Mayor Charlie Hales. And the following organizations have received pass-through money from the teen program to implement the programs at the community center: Portland Opportunities Industrialization Center, Immigrant and Refugee Community Organization, Latino Network, Native American Youth and Family Center, Boys and Girls Club of Portland Metropolitan Area, Self-Enhancement Inc., and Reaching and Empowering All People, or REAP Inc. The grant agreements are set to expire June 18th, and Parks would like to extend the mechanism and process of providing funding. Would like to extend the current grant agreement until June 2019 to allow time to create an equitable and financially sustainable process.
Any further public testimony?
No sign-up
Any
sheet
further
service. questions?
This is a first reading of a non-emergency ordinance. It moves to second reading. Item 503, please.
Pay property damage claim of Niet Lee in the sum of $25,514 involving the Portland Police Bureau.
Who pulled this item?
Joe pulled all these items.
Is there any further public testimony on this item? Call the roll.
Fish.
Aye.
Saltzman.
Aye.
Fritz.
Aye.
Wheeler.
Aye. The ordinance is adopted. Next item, 504.
Authorize a grant agreement with Central City Concern in an amount not to exceed $47,500 for their Community Volunteer Corps program.
Any public testimony on this item? Please call the roll.
Fish.
Aye.
Saltzman.
Aye.
Fritz.
Aye.
Wheeler.
Aye. The ordinance is adopted. Next item, 505.
Approve council minutes for January through June 2017.
Mayor, I move the report.
We have a motion.
Second.
We have a second. Commissioner Fish moves. Commissioner Saltzman seconds. Please call the roll.
Fish.
Aye.
Saltzman.
Aye.
Fritz.
Well, I will vote for this. I have not reviewed the 6 months of minutes, and I continue to think it's not transparent to have minutes and then presented in batches of 6 months. However, that is what the auditor has chosen to do for many years now, and I don't see it changing. Aye.
Wheeler.
Aye. The ordinance is adopted. We are adjourned.